Welcome, everybody, to our Lunch and Learn today. Those of you who have come on, you're going to get a nice treat. You're going to hear from our leadership, you're going to hear from our principal staff all about how committee volunteerism works, what it's about, what it means. Um, we try to keep these to 45 minutes. So if you do have questions, please put them in the Q&A. We do have Deanna Richardson, who is in the chat as well, so who can also answer questions. But if you put them in the Q&A, it gives us an opportunity to either answer them along the way or hold them until the end, depending on what the question is about. So I am Paula Chase Hyman, and I am the Managing Director of Leadership Development and Member Experience. And so managing kind of the committee relationship falls under my department, although our committees span the entire league in terms of staff. And you're going to meet the folks who manage those committees today. Next slide, Dee. What we'd like to for you to walk away with is we want you to understand kind of what the committee experience is like. And so you're going to hear about that experience from the perspective of the committee leadership, and that would be our chairs, and in some cases, perhaps our vice chairs who are also joining us today. We also want to help you to understand what each committee manages, the initiatives that they manage. We see committee volunteers as the lifeblood of the league, and you'll see why when you hear about the different things that the committees that fall under their management. And we'll tell you a little bit about the committee appointment process and the timeline for when everything happens. The committee submissions are open right now. That link is live. We will post that link a couple times throughout this webinar so that you are able, if you have not already registered for a committee, you will be able to access that and get that filled out. But first, I'd like to introduce you to those folks who actually help to manage that process from the staff side. D, next slide. And those are our principal staff members. And so you will see we have them with us today. And that would be Steve Lopes, who is our conference planning principal, Sharon Easton, who is our engagement and outreach principal, Bill George, who is our legislative committee principal, and Iris Ababellum, who is our co-principal on the legislative committee. And you will hear a little bit more from them later. First, we actually are going to have you hear directly from our committee leadership. And by way of introduction, I don't have everybody here. This is why I call the audible. Because I wanted to introduce those who were actually here, and then you'll see on the slide who else is here. So we do have, I can see though that we have Cynthia Miller, Mayor Cynthia Miller, who is also, she is our conference planning chair. We have Council Member Mark Conway, who is the chair of our legislative committee. And we have Council Member Michelle Gregory, who is chair of our engagement and outreach. And we have co-chair, vice chair rather, Kelly Phipps from La Plata. So I'm going to get right into it. We are doing this in alphabetical order today. So first, I would like to welcome Mayor Cynthia Miller to come on. And if everybody else would turn their cameras on and we can focus on Mayor Miller. D, slide 5, please. Mayor Miller, please tell us a little bit about, oh, I'm sorry, slide 6. Tell us a little bit about why you got involved in the committee and what you see as the benefit to yourself, the town, and the league.
Mhm. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here to talk about my desire to always want to be a part of a committee at MML. I was actually on the conference planning committee several years ago, and to have that honor to be the chair of this year's conference planning committee has been very, very helpful for me. I've always been involved in office planning and actually event planning. And so for me, this is an honor to continue my experience to share with MML and the members and the city of District Heights. Because when we find that when we're involved, we find that niche where we have that experience or it's a hobby. So to expand that thought pattern of how you can continue to give back to your community and the memberships that you are involved in is very valuable to me. So I love people and I love meeting new people. And so I encourage members to get involved with committees because it does brighten and it enforces you to come out of your comfort zone. And if you really like giving back to your community, you do love being a part of committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Gregory, can you tell us a little bit about engagement and outreach? Next slide, Dee.
Sure, my pleasure. Good afternoon, everybody. When I first got involved with the Engagement and Outreach Committee, honestly, it's been the only committee I have served on and I've stayed with it because I've enjoyed it so much. Um, it wasn't because I had extra time or I was looking to add something new to my plate. Like most of you, my schedule is already pretty full. Um, and I stepped in because I saw an opportunity to engage with the community more. In local government, we talk about community engagement. We say it's a priority. But too often, engagement looks the same everywhere. It doesn't always reach people who need to be a part of the conversation, especially in communities like mine in Salisbury, here on the Eastern Shore, where geography, resources, even trust in government can create some real barriers to engagement. Um, One of the core responsibilities is the If I Were Mayor essay contest. And on the surface, it may sound simple, but if we're doing it right, it is so much more than that. It's one of the most direct ways we can reach young people and bring them into the conversation about local government. We're asking students to think critically about their communities, to imagine solutions, and to see themselves as part of the future of leadership. And that has real implications. Because students we engage today are the residents who show up tomorrow, the volunteers, the board members, the small business owners, and the future elected officials. If we're not building that connection early, we're not just missing the engagement, we're weakening the long-term pipeline of civic participation and leadership in our communities. And for me personally, being a part of this committee has sharpened how I approach my own work. It's pushed me to think beyond the standard public hearing or social media post to look for more creative, more accessible ways to connect with residents, including our next generation of leaders. It has also given me a chance to learn from all of you, what's working in your municipalities, what's not, and how we can bring those ideas back home. It's a way of just making connections. Uh, for my city, the benefit is simple but powerful. When we do engagement well, we make better decisions. We catch problems earlier. We build trust even when people don't agree with us. And we create a sense of shared ownership in the outcomes. Um, for the MML, the work is essential. The Maryland Municipal League has always been a place where we come together to share ideas and strengthen local leadership. And the Engagement and Outreach Committee helps ensure that we're not just talking to each other, but building real pathways to connect with the people we serve, especially the young people who will shape what comes next. And at the end of the day, this committee is about making local government more responsible, more responsive, more inclusive, and more sustainable for the long term. And I think that's really worth work doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Gregory. Now we will have Councilmember Conway talk about the Legislative Committee.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Once again, Council Member Mark Conway. I serve in Baltimore City, and I chair the Legislative Committee, which has really been an eye-opening opportunity to understand how decisions being made in Annapolis affect our municipalities across the state. I got involved with the with MML, and then very quickly thereafter the legislative committee after working with President Knock, and thinking about how Baltimore really needed to be a bigger partner and a more active partner in MML. As you may or may not know, it serves both as a municipality but also as a county, and we really wanted to make sure that we had a strong presence in MML because I think a lot of the issues that affect municipalities across the state really, really, really affect Baltimore. And it allows, I think, MML to make a compelling case for how the state's largest city, and therefore, in many ways, the engine behind many of the things happening in the state, can be a compelling way to address issues. And the supports that we do to support Baltimore or to support municipal issues more broadly really help folks across the board. I'll say also what has been really, really eye-opening is beginning to understand some of the nuances and experiences for municipalities across the state. As we've evaluated, I can't even count how many pieces of legislation we've actually evaluated. I've really come to appreciate sort of the nuance and the differences in priorities of our municipalities across the state, whether they be in more rural areas or more urban areas, or have larger or smaller municipalities. I think the nuances and experiences and abilities are really profound, and it's really helped me to wrap my head around, what we can do at the state level and how we can help each other in order to be the best municipalities we can possibly be. The legislative committee meets weekly, and in a sort of a 2 hour period, 3 hour period, we'll go through a series of legislation that is being considered at the state level, and discuss, debate, and determine whether or not we want to support or oppose legislation that is being considered. And I think, this is really, really, really important because the decisions being made in Annapolis have sometimes huge ramifications at the local level. And often there's a very strong county presence and a county consideration. But I would suggest that our cities are sort of the gems across the state. It's where we have the highest concentration of people and certainly the greatest impact and ability to affect people's day-to-day lives. So it's been awesome, really. The ability to work with the staff, give a shout out to the staff that has been really, really, really phenomenal in helping us stay prepared and stay informed, especially when we get into some of the more sticky legislation. It's been intellectually challenging, but also really rewarding in trying to figure out how we make our way through this session. So I've really, really enjoyed it, and look forward to continuing working with MML.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Conway. Um, Next, we're going to hear from the principal staff. Our leadership, as expected, has really covered well what the committees do. But I'd like Bill George to start. Dean, next slide. And we're going to hear a little bit about what those initiatives and kind of special projects fall under each committee.
Thank you, Paula, and thank you to Councilmember Conway for leading the legislative committee this year. It's been fantastic to work with him. Hi, everyone. Bill George. I'm the Managing Director of Advocacy and Public Policy with MML. The legislative committee, the council member touched on part of it. Essentially has two main responsibilities. I'm going to go kind of sequentially. So the first is to vet and recommend legislative priorities for the following Maryland General Assembly session. So after the new committee is established, sometime after the new board year starts, following our summer conference, the committee meets the last couple of years. It's been twice in July, the last 2 weeks in July. The priority process has actually already started. So the legislative action request is a form that we distribute to the membership to submit ideas that could be considered for legislative priorities for the following year. Those forms are due by the end of May. And then there's an additional month to have the governing body of your municipality approve the LARs. We do this so that it shows a support from the entire governing body, not just one person within the municipality supporting this idea. The committee staff then prepares presentations and reports, including legislative history and other factors to consider when presenting these various proposals to the legislative committee. Then the legislative committee will vote at the second meeting to recommend up to 4 legislative priorities. They can, there's a little bit of leeway when it comes to, mashing a couple proposals together or, narrowing them or broadening them. There's some discretion with the committee. So once those votes take place at the second meeting in July to recommend a priority or priorities, then those go to the MML board for final approval, typically at their September meeting. And then those priorities are the staff can take off and run with them and start developing legislative drafts and working to find bill sponsors and coalition building between then and the start of the General Assembly session in the middle of January. Councilmember Conway also touched on the second main objective of the Legislative Committee, and that is bill review and position taking during the General Assembly session. This year, the committee met 7 consecutive weeks, starting with the opening General Assembly session night in mid-January and running through the end of February. These are typically 1.5 to 2 hour meetings. We go through about 35 bills a meeting. There's vigorous debate, a lot of good ideas and perspectives brought from the membership of the committee. And ultimately, we land on one of a handful of positions that are articulated in our rules. Then it goes up to staff to implement the positions taken by the legislative committee before the General Assembly. As Councilmember Conway indicated, it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding, and it's been a pleasure to work with this year's committee, exercising their leadership in Annapolis, and happy to answer any questions. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. The Q&A is open. I do see questions in there that will actually be answered as we go on. And also the chat is open and available. Next, I'm going to have Sharon Easton talk to us a little bit about the initiatives of the Engagement and Outreach Committee.
Hello, everyone. I am Sharon Easton. I'm the Manager of Member Experience under the Leadership Development and Member Experience Department. The programs that fall under the Engagement and Outreach Committee, affectionately known as E&O, are the Banner City Town Program, the If I Were Mayor, I Would Essay Contest, and the Municipal Government Works Program. The Municipal Government Works Month program, I should say. The Banner City Town Program restores formal recognition upon any municipality that is doing you consider like an outstanding commitment to MML's programs and events, most of which you're doing anyway, like the summer conference, fall conference, chapter meetings, going to visit a school, teaching someone about the students about municipal government. You can think like a guidepost to your MML membership, but if you're doing those things, that's wonderful. We appreciate that. And we want to reward you and recognize you for doing those things. And we do that at the summer conference. So the committee serves as ambassadors to help municipalities get to their Banner City journey. The committee, the outreach is in the name, so they perform lots of outreach. They do lots of engagement. So you can visit our website to find more about that, and I'll answer any questions for those at the end. For the If I Were Mayor, I Would Essay Contest program, that's been in existence since 2001. I'll say the Banner City has been since 2006. 2001, and that contest is sponsored by the Maryland Mayors Association, and each year the committee is tasked with coming up with a theme. The essay contest helps students to creatively use their skills for language arts, their civic and social studies skills to come up with their municipal government. And the teachers teach the students, and then we get the essays that come in. The committee serves as volunteer readers, recruiting volunteers, and they also uh, um, get other people to attend. I already said recruiting volunteers. I just duplicated myself. So for the Municipal Government Works program, um, it's celebrated in November to present citizens awareness of an interest in the government and the community. So through your school visits, that would count, those types of things. The Municipal Government Works Month program is an activity that you do in November, whether it's proclaiming a proclamation or a flag or flying the flag. It must be done in November. And there are so many other activities that we would love for you to do, like doing your social media. A lot of people don't even realize the things that they do for those things, food drives, community outreach. And the committee does outreach, they promo that, and we'll get into all of those responsibilities if anybody has any questions about those things. But that is what our committee does. We do have other outreach and responsibilities that we may be helping out with other events like the symposium or ushers at summer conference, but the committee handles those three programs. And I hope that you've all heard of Municipal Government Works Month, the If I Were Mayor essay contest, and the Banner City Town program. And I'm happy to talk to anyone about those programs. If you have any questions, we would love for you to become more involved with MML and stay involved with MML.
Thank you, Sharon. Before I move on to Steve, I do see that there are some questions in the chat, and they are being answered by our panelists. I will definitely still cover some of those answers live later. I did want to address the one question because Sharon talked about the essay contest, and the question was, does MML have any future plans to engage students at middle and high school levels, like we do the fourth grade? And where our programs are always evolving. They're always evolving, and we even this year under President Knock did a college initiative, which we can talk, a little bit perhaps after this is all over, as it's not connected to committee. But the answer, in short, is yes. We are always looking to, make sure that you all are serving as ambassadors to all ages, so that you can help nurture the next iteration of local government and municipal officials. So with that, I want to bring Steve on, Steve Lopes, to talk about the initiatives of the Conference Planning Committee.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Lopes, and I am the principal staff member for the Conference Planning Committee. So I'm very excited to once again be working with Mayor Miller. She's chair this year, and I haven't on it for a while, so I remember when she was on before. The Conference Planning Committee, also known as the CPC, is involved in both the summer conference and the leadership conference, which is normally held in the fall. This year will be held December 2nd to the 4th in Baltimore. Yes, my CPC side is using a shameless plug for the leadership conference. The committee generally meets 4 to 5 times a year virtually in September, January, April, and May at 4 p.m. We begin the year by reviewing feedback from summer attendee surveys and from the committee, their feedback and what possible features and changes we can institute for the following conferences. The CPC will also choose the annual Municipal Achievement Award winners. This award is for municipal projects, programs, best practices in 4 categories: community engagement, sustainability, diversity, equity, inclusion, and e-governance. Exhibitors are a huge part of our summer conference and underwrite a large amount of the costs. To show them some appreciation, we offer an opportunity at summer conference for exhibitors to hold an educational presentation on the expo stage. The CPC will choose from the submissions which exhibitors will be invited to the expo stage. The CPC will also choose a nonprofit organization to invite to our conference. We will highlight and collect donations for this group, and we'll do this as part of our Giving Back to the Local Community initiative. Now, CPC's main overall role is to be a conference ambassador, the cheerleaders. That is the official conference promoter for both summer and leadership conferences. The CPC will have the latest event updates and sneak peeks, which will bring back to their colleagues, bring back to their council meetings, chapters, department meetings, and all the various groups that you all are involved in. And the goal being, of course, to remind people that our events, when they are, the dates, deadlines, and to be sure that they register, um, while instilling the value and benefits of attending, not only for the elected, but also the appointed and the staff members. CBC members will also assist on site at the conferences with registration, general sessions. They'll engage in attendees, provide guidance, answer questions, especially for the newbies who this is their first conference. You can be a huge help to them, just kind of guiding their way. And as Mayor Miller mentioned, it is a wonderful way to meet people at conference. Um, and that is CPC in a nutshell. I will turn it back to Paula.
Thanks, Steve. So, as you're listening to what all of our committees do, hopefully you are understanding a theme, and that theme is the overall purpose that you see that has been on the screen. The purpose that you see here encompasses all of our committees. Like these are the things that collectively that they set to do, and what a large part they play in the league's success. One of the things um, that a lot of people probably don't understand is that our committees are like the trenches, right? And so this is a gateway to board service. So if anybody's actually interested in serving on the MML board in some capacity, you are required to have served on a committee for at least a year. You have to have had committee service in your background. And so if you have that interest, if you want to, become part of the state leadership, this is the best way to do it. And you see that there are several different things that may hold your interest. Legislative is not everybody's cup of tea, but perhaps, getting involved in the professional development and being able to encourage your municipal colleagues to make sure that they are taking advantage of professional development opportunities. Maybe that is your thing, or maybe it is just in general serving as an ambassador for municipal government and for the officials who operate those governments. Then engagement and outreach is your thing. So there's something for everyone. So what does this mean, and how does any of this work? So first and foremost, appointments are done by the incoming president each year in June, because the committee year starts in July. So the committee year does run July 1 through what I would say the conference, right? It's not through June 30. It's really just through the summer conference. So the submission form is open right now. It is open until April 30th. I believe we say until 5 p.m. And um, and then once that happens, the president will look over all of these submissions and, look at what people are saying they bring to the table and why they're interested in serving on a particular committee. And you do have to pick a single committee. So, you can apply for a committee every year, and you can apply for a different one every year if you want. But we do ask that you let us know your interests. I think in the past, perhaps we used to, say first, second choice or something like that. But now we just want to know, like, well, where do you think your resources are going to be most helpful, and where do your interests lie? So that is on the submission that you must select one. So when the president is looking at these, not only looking at what people are offering, it's very important that we have geographic diversity. And so we look to make sure that all of the districts are represented. Back in the day, it was a little tougher because legislative meets every week, and the engagement and outreach, they were meeting once a month, more or less. And so when they were strictly in person, it was a little bit difficult for someone who perhaps is from the lower shore or from far western Maryland to come out. But most of our committees now have hybrid options, or they're meeting strictly remote, which I think has increased the access to those who are interested in serving. So geographic diversity has always been very important to us. So, we really highly encourage people from all across the state, to throw their hat in the ring for it. Also, what's important to us is the diversity of the type of municipal officials, meaning we want elected officials and staff officials. So we've always offered the opportunity for the 8 departments, which are, our clerks, the managers, our police officials, our attorneys, we encourage them to actually submit someone who will represent their department. And that is how we help to ensure that we get that diversity. However, you can submit yourself, but we like for the departments to do it because we see that as a connection to the department. We know that that's someone who's going to go back and provide what's happening in the committees to their department. We also see the when if you are representing your district, if you're selected, we always tend to have good representation from Central Maryland. Again, I think that's a throwback from having in-person meetings and those people having probably a greater opportunity to come to Annapolis for a meeting. But we also, expect those folks to be placing that information back into the district. Perhaps you go to a chapter meeting and you're letting people know what's going on at the committee level. So those are like the expectations, if you are appointed, is that you're going to not just, kind of take that information, but share that information and spread the gospel, as it were, of what's happening in the committee and the impacts that it could have on the municipalities in your district, on your municipality, and also the impact that your municipality is having on the league's resources and initiatives. I think that committee volunteerism is a great way to understand the league's role and how we support municipal officials. And you heard that from the chairs. They said the same thing, that ability to see the other side, right? To see the sausage being made because you are playing a part. You are having a voice in that. We are a member association, and committees is one of the first ways that people get the opportunity to have a say in the initiatives, the programs that the league is offering. So, what is the timeline here? April 30th is the last day to submit. The incoming president tends to make their appointments and their selections. In the middle of June. I'm pretty sure that people are informed that they have been selected or not by the time we get to the conference. And then there is a committee orientation, typically in July. Right now, tentatively, that is set for July 7th. That is an opportunity for you to understand like the expectations. It usually you already know the tentative dates for your meetings. And that also sort of serves as the first meeting of that committee. So you probably won't do any business, but you would be um, uh, meeting your fellow committee members, and that's your first chance to start to come together as a group. And while they talked about the different initiatives, every committee is different in terms of the level of work that they do. So it really can vary. Obviously the legislative committee is very busy this time of year when session is when the General Assembly is in session. But with what Steve said, like about the conference planning committee, there are different things that they're doing both for the leadership conference and for the summer conference. But what we also look to all of our committees, regardless of what committee they serve on, is we see you all as ambassadors for the league. You are the people who can help to guide others to the different services out there because now you understand what services and what resources we offer. So I would like to ask everybody to come back on screen because we're going to open it up to a Q&A. And I know I do see some questions in there. That one question was, do you have to be an elected official? And obviously the answer is no. We do welcome elected and staff members to be on there. Oh, I had a question on there and it's gone. Okay, maybe I don't have any more questions because they've all been answered. Okay. So are there any other questions? Is there anything that perhaps we did not cover in full in terms of how the committees work, why the committees exist in the first place? This is one of our largest volunteer efforts. I think across the three committees, you're talking about perhaps 70 some odd people. I don't know the exact number, but we're talking about nearly 100 volunteers. So this is a very huge contingent of our membership playing a part in very different elements and things that hold people's interest. And we really appreciate our chairs and our vice chairs and our committee members who serve because we know that you're doing this on top of your municipal service, your family. So this is something that we don't take for granted. Okay, I see another question. Yes, is the presentation recorded? Yes, it is recorded. We will be sending it out to anyone who registered for this session, and it will also be on MML's YouTube page. Give us about 3 days to get it up, but to get it up and to get it out. But yes, we will. We always provide that so that if anybody has questions, you can send them this way. Dee, could you drop the submission form in the chat one more time? I know a lot of times you do these things and somebody perhaps wasn't here the first two times it was dropped. So I want to give everybody that opportunity to do that. And I also I know I see some people who are attending who are current committee members, who are past committee members. So I love to see the interest because there are people who have served on the committees for many years. There are people who get appointed because one of the things that's important for the committees is that there be a good balance of veterans and new folks because you get those new perspectives and but you also kind of have that institutional knowledge that keeps things going. So we welcome it. There is no you don't really have to have any prior experience in any of this to be appointed. What the president typically is looking for is that geographic diversity and that diversity in elected versus staff. So we have begun asking, you'll see the committee is going to take, I would say it could take you about 15 minutes to fill out because it does ask for your background, but that's because we also want to see like what type of skills you bring to the table that perhaps could help enhance that committee year. So it's not like a resume where it's like, oh, you're not qualified. It's really just to see like what type of talent we have on there and how we can, best use that talent throughout the year. Do I have anything that our chairs or our principals would like to add that perhaps they forgot to say or that they just want to add to the mix, vice chairs as well? We covered it all. I have another question. What would you suggest for a younger person who may not qualify for a committee but wants to get more involved? I mean, that's what I want you to understand. The submission form is not about being qualified. This is a volunteer position. This is about you having interest in an area. This is about you being willing to add your voice and your talent and your resources to an area when it all comes down to it, most of the committee is a puzzle piece in trying to balance the geographic diversity, trying to make sure that we have, the either all of the state or a vast majority of the state represented is more important than that somebody might be a professor in English. And so that's therefore they're gonna, serve on one committee over another. So I really just suggest that you throw your hat in the ring on the committee that is most appealing to you. And in the submission form, explain why it's appealing to you. It could be because you want to learn more about that, and that's fine. There's nothing that's going to disqualify you from a committee. Your interest is the qualification. Your willingness to volunteer your hours for an entire committee year is the qualification. And you'll notice that there is a conflict of interest and a code of conduct that you must sign in that submission form. And it is because, we have to be mindful of the fact that we're asking you for your time and we have to make sure that there's no conflict in terms of services and if we're using you as a vendor, those type of things. But that's a very basic thing and everyone must sign it from the committee to the board. So that's just a standard conduct form. But please, there's no qualification other than a willingness to serve. Anyone else, or are we wrapping this up? Okay, I think we might be wrapping this up. Appreciate everybody's time today. Staff, our chairs, our vice chairs, thank you all for attending and giving us a little bit time on your lunch. Please remember that this forum does, it will stop accepting after 5:01 p.m. It will no longer accept submissions. So please, if you are interested, and this has, made you decide, I absolutely want to do it, or you want to send it to other people in your town, please do so. We really would like to make sure that our committees are fleshed out. I believe that we have, Bill, how many slots do you have for legislative?
We recently changed the membership criteria and made it a little bit more clear. So we've got one from every district, every regional district. We have one seat for every professional department,
Okay.
and then 3 at large.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that is the way that the legislative is set up. The other
Yep.
ones are not quite that structured because they have less seats. Sharon, 15 for you,
15 to 17, yes.
15 to 17 for you,
I
Steve.
think 17 this year.
15, sometimes 20, somewhere in that
Okay.
range.
So you see the number of slots that are available between the two, hearing that legislative does it to ensure that there is representation across the state, which makes sense because we are talking about the priorities that impact the vast majority of the municipalities. But for the others, it is a little it is also based on interest, right? If we only get 15 people, then you're not guaranteed appointment. I probably should start with the lead. You're never guaranteed appointment. It's not personal. Again, it's that puzzle piece. It's a whole lot of things that go on with whether you would be appointed or not. But for the most part, those are the number of slots that we are looking to fill on a given year. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody's time. This should be up by the end of the week on our YouTube channel. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.